I'm back from my vacation and well rested and ready for some news. Let's talk. What up, viewers? What up? What up? Calc Soups here, and today is Friday, July 11th, and that means it's time for a quick recap of the week in video game news. Big thing that happened this week was the Ghost of Yotei showcase. This is the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. This is Sony's kind of like not quite Assassin's Creed game. Some might argue it's even better than most Assassin's Creed games. But yeah, the sequel is coming out, and we got to see a lot more of what to expect in this sequel, including new weapon types. There's all sorts of different weapons that you could use. There's also the Kurosawa mode is back, so you can play the game in like a black and white, traditional, samurai esque, gameplay. So all that was pretty exciting. There was a bunch of other stuff revealed in the Ghost of Yotei State of Play, which I will have linked down below. But yeah, those were the bits that caught my eye. Moving right along, there was a Borderlands 4 showcase talking about the planet that people will play on. It's a prison planet. Talked about a lot of the characters and some of the skills. I saw the trailer, maybe not associated with this, for the like necromancer siren character, because you always have to have a siren character in Borderlands. And yeah, it looked decent. I still, the animations for like killing stuff have seemed to have improved. But I'm really still very curious about how interesting the gameplay loop will be, how many times do I have to play it to get to max level, what does endgame look like. A lot of that stuff is the stuff that I'm concerned about, although there is some quality of life stuff that I've talked about in the past about being able to port to your friends or summon the car straight to you or no loading screens. You can even, the new thing, you can mute or lower the volume on Claptrap so he's not so loud and obnoxious, especially when played by Jack Black. Yeah, there's a lot of new stuff coming for Borderlands. We're only a couple months away, so pretty excited about that. Owlcat Games, or as I like to call them, Larian at Home. They're the makers of my probably second favorite, TRP or CRPGs in the last few years. They've made the Pathfinder Kingmaker game and Rogue Trader. This week, Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. There's a second Pathfinder game in there as well. They're making another game this with a pretty popular sci-fi IP, The Expanse. They're gonna do what they usually do with really good writing, really drop you into the world, and there's a lot of comparisons to Mass Effect and a lot of choice-driven stuff there. So it'll be interesting to see what Owlcat can do with The Expanse. I like what they do. They take an IP and they make it, they flesh out the world. They have really good writers working there. So yeah, I'm excited to see what they can do with The Expanse, even if I'm not the biggest Expanse fan. There was a new gaming initiative that gained some traction this week called Stop Killing Games. It is a European, I think even UK based initiative of people trying to get governments to require video game publishers to keep games active in perpetuity, either with like an offline mode if it's a multiplayer game, or like keep some amount of servers live at all times. There was a lot of back and forth this week about what this would do for gaming, but they kind of really reached traction this week when they got like 1 million signatures, which means that now that's going to require a response from the collective governments. The opposite side's response was, this will make games cost more to make, and all that kind of stuff, the typical BS. And yeah, I think there's a push and a pull here, but I do think it is very anti-consumer to launch a game, see it's not doing well, and then turn it off and remove people's access to that thing that they purchased, several months after the game launched, or a week later, according to Concord. At least that one got refunds, but there are, I think, yeah, it's like I said, it's a very anti-consumer market out there. So any group of people that are trying to push back, I think is super helpful. One of the threatening kind of counterpoints was like, oh, we'll stop selling in Europe, and that does not seem like a viable business strategy. You're not going to throw away half of your market because you have to keep 2 or 3 servers live for your game. Maybe live service games will be happen less and have a little bit more thought than just throwing 20 characters on a screen and having them shoot at each other. So there's something to be said about that. As someone who I would love to be able to just go in the store and buy PT or play it or any of that kind of stuff. So, but I can't because of some anti-consumer stuff that game publishers have done in the past. So I mostly agree with the Stop Killing Games initiative, and I'll have a link down below for you to check out what you could do to help there. Speaking of shitty business practices, Krafton, the developer or the publishers of PlayerUnknown Battleground, PUBG, did some pretty nefarious stuff with the Subnautica 2 higher up developers. So they removed the management at Unknown Worlds kind of suddenly this week, and then announced that the game will be delayed. And after a little bit of digging and following the money, we've kind of pieced together a story of like they were trying to avoid paying out some bonuses to the developer, which feels like a very shitty practice if they were like due for something and then you just cut it out and then delay the game. So it was all very shitty stuff that's happening this week. There's like a counter that's going on right now. The person who started the company, Unknown Worlds, was kicked pretty suddenly. So yeah, and then like Krafton's saying that the game's not ready and doesn't have enough content in it and all that kind of stuff, which sounds like malarkey because like the early access has been going well for quite some time. So yeah, again, another shitty games practice. I don't know what Krafton's doing, but yeah, I'm excited to see that, them get their dues for all the fans of Subnautica. So hopefully we'll be able to play it soon, and Krafton has to pay their developers for a game that's going to be well received. So looking forward to that. One of the big pieces of news coming out for me this week was someone in a podcast this week with potential insider knowledge on what's going on over at Bethesda said that there is several Fallout games in the pipeline, one of which could potentially be a Fallout 3 remake. This all seems like rumor and speculation. It's just based on like one person saying something on a podcast. So, I wouldn't cash it at the bank yet. And it could be like a mobile game or like a tie-in with Fortnite or something like that they call like a Fallout game. So, and we're not even guaranteed that any of these will actually like make it to market. So I am excited for the potential Fallout 3 remake. It has been, oh gosh, almost like 15 years since I think the Fallout 3 came out. So when did Fallout 3 come out? Anyway, it's been well over a decade, and the Fallout 3 definitely could use a bit of loving. I'm hoping it's more of a remake and not like a remaster with like 4K textures. There's some stuff that could definitely be improved, or take it out of the janky old, Bethesda engine or whatever. Plenty of stuff to do there. Maybe even a cool playable character. They already did it for Fallout 76. Why not go back and retroactively do it for Fallout 3? Anyway, I'm excited for, more potential Fallout games coming out. So looking forward to that. PS Plus for the month of July includes some pretty big hitters, including Cyberpunk 2077. They are also discounting the Phantom Liberty DLC. So if you pick up Cyberpunk, you can buy the Phantom Liberty DLC and play through that. There's also a couple other games like Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden, which was like a Focus Entertainment game that I really liked. That came out last year, where you're like ghost hunters. There's a couple other really cool games. So if you have PS Plus, look for those. Look to download those on PS Plus. We've talked a lot about good corporations or bad corporations. Let's talk about a potentially good spin to a bad situation. GameStop is auctioning off the stapler that stapled the receipt through the PS2 for charity. They put the auction up at on eBay. And it's already up to, at one point it was at like 10, like 15K. It is now up to $250,000 for a stapler, a Switch 2, and the receipt that went into the Switch 2 box. So it is definitely a like moment of history. So I can definitely see why it's going, for so much. It's also for charity, so good for that. But yeah, the whole thing, it can be bought by you on eBay for north of $250,000. So yeah, I'm curious how much this will actually make. Hopefully, all the money goes to charity. And yeah, it's definitely the ability to own a moment in history when some random GameStop manager stapled a receipt to a Switch, and a newly released Switch 2 console. And now, they're spending it for charity. So good on them. Way to put some silver lining on that cloud. Um, Moving right along, I've been hearing a lot about the upcoming World of Warcraft expansion and what they will do in their housing update. I don't play World of Warcraft, or haven't for a long time, but I'm constantly hearing about how the housing will work, and read a cool article this week talking about how there will be like neighborhoods that you can have with your guild, and there'll be like weekly events you could be doing with your housing and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of really cool things coming to World of Warcraft players who are still playing the game 21 years later, or got into it later and then have been enjoying the new content. So interesting stuff going on in the World of Warcraft. Last but not least, Dead by Daylight continues to make partnerships with IPs. Usually horror IPs. They already have Jason and Freddy and Mike Myers and all that kind of stuff in Dead by Daylight, but now they're expanding their horizons a little bit more. They have Nicolas Cage in there. This week, they announced a partnership with The Walking Dead, and they're actually getting the likenesses of the characters from the TV show. So they've got Andrew Lincoln and Danae Garcia, will be playable characters within Dead by Daylight. They also had levels. I think they had Norma Reedus as well. So a lot of really cool stuff happening in Dead by Daylight. I'm still surprised every year when I hear about some really cool partnership that's happening in Dead by Daylight. So, yeah, they've got The Walking Dead coming to Dead by Daylight. So check that out soon. But that's it for this week. Let me know if you feel I forgot anything down below in the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a super day. I hope you have a super weekend. And I hope you have a super day. Bye!